Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to another episode of this beautiful podcast. Dr. Sohail Hanif, thank you very much for joining us again.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Jazakallah khair. Dr. Sohail, you are the CEO of National Zakat Foundation, an organization that specializes in zakat collection and distribution, especially in the UK. Now, in previous episodes, we've spoken about what zakat is, how it impacts societies that we live in, and now I want to focus a little bit more on the organization, on a micro level. Where is the organization looking itself in 10 years' time in terms of strategy, in terms of vision? What is National Zakat Foundation trying to achieve? So let's start off by giving you an opportunity to tell me, the viewers, on where National Zakat Foundation is going.
Okay, thank you very, very much indeed. And please jump in if I get lost somewhere. What's most important is what I call collaborating with our community to build a national zakat system, a situation whereby a national safety net for UK Muslims. How are we going to get there? So in order to get there, we have to really create this impetus for people's involvement. I used the word movement last time. You could call it mobilizing our community. If you can fundraise, why don't you contribute? If you can educate, why don't you contribute? If you can pass on information about local needs to people who can fulfill those needs, why don't you? If you can pass on information, you want to train up to distribute zakat in a certified zakat distribution center, come on board, come and join us. So that's at the heart of what we have to build. In order to do that, we have to develop zakat distribution in a way that is obviously transparent, but which connects people to their local communities. So, in order to talk about that, let me talk about NZF Today. So NZF Today is a remarkable infrastructure which you can be anywhere in the country, you can apply for help. We will assess your paperwork, we'll ask relevant questions, and if you're eligible, we can give you support from wherever you are in the country using our technology, cloud, and partnerships. By partnerships, I mean even partnerships with like the post office, whereby you can pick up your zakat grant at a local post office in the event that you don't have a bank account, for example. So we really have developed an excellent network for getting support out, for doing sufficient checks on applications, for keeping good oversight over the handling of funds. We get quite a good level of scrutiny from external charity auditors. We have a monthly Sharia auditor who just checks, are we doing everything above board with a random sample every single month. So we really have a remarkably good system. Everything always has room for improvement, but just in terms of the essential system, it's really quite strong. What we want to do next, while improving the system for national reach, is to see how can we embed it within communities, so people can feel it's their community that they're serving. Because you have to feel you're not working for National Zakat Foundation, you're working for your community, and we are collaborating. That's what's going to derive the impetus of we're each responsible for our own. That's the point we're trying to get to. So, what we are increasingly developing is local zakat distribution hubs. Currently, they're working primarily out of mosques, but they don't have to exclusively be in mosques. So we have centers, 4 in London. These are all mosques.
4 centers in London.
Correct. Correct.
Working as a go-to point for National Zakat.
Correct. A go-to point for needy Muslims. This is how they function. So if I need support, I will walk in. I might book a meeting. They'll tell me any paperwork or something I'll need to bring. I'll have a zakat assessment meeting. And then off the back of that, if I'm eligible, then the mosque can, after checking the details, they can authorize zakat, NZF can reimburse, or they can authorize the payment, NZF will take care of the payment. They don't have to even handle cash. So and what we found when we started doing this the results were incredible, because what we found was people were coming to the mosque for a small amount of money who otherwise weren't coming, even for the food bank, even for the second-hand clothing, even for the free counseling, even for the Quran club, even for anything. They came for this small amount of emergency cash. This is how we've built it so far. But the Zakat assessment conversation was their first time for some of them to speak to somebody from their community about their issues. The mosque learnt about the community learnt about the mosque. And then they started being regulars. People came for the money, but then became regular in the food bank, then became regular in the other services of the mosque. Some of them started volunteering in the mosque to help other people. We've seen that whole life cycle. And then this mosque made partnerships with surrounding mosques, saying, send people to us because we have a Zakat project. And then they started sharing services, or we have counselors, or they needed counselors. So we saw this was really powerful to really get people seeing it themselves on the front line, how Zakat in community builds community. And even if the small emergency cash, which is what we're focusing on at the current moment in these hubs, isn't going to transform a person's life, it gives them immediate relief, and now it's given them a point of contact in community with whom they can now get out of their situation through the wider services of our community infrastructure, which are already reasonably quite good in many parts of the country. So we're now taking that we're about to launch in Leicester, in Birmingham. I was last week in Manchester. We're looking for partners there. So when we're talking about where are we going, I'd like a future where people, if they need to apply, if they want to apply online, which for some people is very good because you don't have to see someone or admit poverty to someone. It's within the comfort of not being seen. You can ask for help. We want to keep that door open to people, but also people can find support in communities through which we'll develop our mosque infrastructure, we'll develop our community infrastructure, and then people will start working with their neighbors. It's no longer make-believe that trust me, there's people in your community, because you'll be seeing them in your mosques, and you might be able to volunteer to help them. And suddenly you're seeing the need, you feel good, because it's not like I clicked online and my zakat is gone, but it's, wow, I could volunteer this month and really help people get their life on track. And it felt so good to me. I want to do more about this. That's the idea all over the country. We've got the system, and again, we've developed a reasonably good system, and I think it's going to be very good. The other part to this, that's connecting people physically in community, but people also belong to virtual communities. Not everyone walks into the mosque, but they should still feel connected to their local community. And so we're trying to develop, and we just started it now. We're just rolling it out to trial it. A system whereby you can register on your phone and get some kind of a ping or an update to say, oh, do you know where you live within X mile radius of your home? There's about 5 families looking for support with housing. Do you want to help them? This idea that I'm seeing my local needs. So we want to really, when we talk about local zakat, it's what we call real localizing. Really in the city where you live. Really in your sphere of influence and control where you can actually be. That's the future. That's what I think we have to build.
What you're saying is connecting people that are in need of zakat with volunteers that are willing to help. Is that what we're saying, or are we saying that people that are in need, connecting them with donors?
So at the heart of it, it's connecting community through zakat. So that those in need, if they're coming into a mosque hub, they're connected to the entire infrastructure of the mosque. Right. Whether you're volunteering or not, they're connected to all of that. If you are volunteering, then you're connecting to your mosque infrastructure, which you might not have been before, and you're connecting with those in need of your community. If you're giving and you're more aware of the needs actually where you live and you're supporting them directly, then you are feeling more connected to the needs around you. So it's actually connecting the entire community. Remember when I described the Zakat system, I said you might just be sleeping in bed. You might not be actively paying or receiving zakat, but you're still touched by the fact you're in a safety net of support and you are no longer alone and you belong to a community that's there for you. So the zakat connection is for everybody, actually. Givers, recipients, volunteers, mosques, infrastructure, everybody. That's at the heart of it. And it's good to use the word connection, because that's what we call this. We have to build connectivity through zakat, because that's what local zakat is meant to be about. So we've got two pillars, if you like, of this future. One is mobilizing people, giving them avenues to volunteer. One is connecting people, giving them avenues to feel connected. We've talked about physically in Zakat Hubs. We've already got a number, and we'd like to roll these out over the country. And we've got virtually, through, which we're still trialing, but where you can really feel connected. You can send messages around. You can say, Mum, can you ask your friends? There's a new family that live near us. They don't have furniture. They need a washing machine or something. Did you see what I mean? You can get active around people really where you live. And that's the beginning of feeling, I can do something here. I'm not powerless.
Is that where you bring in the element of technology? Or is that something in terms of using technology? Because a lot of us youngsters now, I call myself a youngster, you see. I still feel young.
You look like one.
I don't, physically I don't feel like it. But a lot of us, younger generation, for example, there's not watching TV, everything's online, social media, that drives everything. So it's very much at our fingertips. Is that what the NZF strategy is, to kind of use technology, and how would you use technology to expand your strategy, if you like?
Yeah, it's a fabulous question. Multifaceted and tricky. Because if you hear me talking, I've talked all about people, not about technology. I've said you want to be active. You want to speak to your neighbors. You want to volunteer in your mosque, and mosques are physical. So everything I've described so far is quite non-technology, is what it sounds like.
It's funny how many times we go knock on our neighbors' doors now. I remember back in the day.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
When you run out of sugar, you would go to the next door neighbor. Can I get a little bit of sugar? Or we've run out of onions, whatever. But
yeah, it's true.
It's become so unsociable. I feel like the society we're living in.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely correct. And that's where I'm saying with technology, it's a tricky balance, but it's a very important one. Because technology can accelerate and enable many things.
Right.
And so we at NZF are trying very hard to be at the forefront of where we can harness technology, but to what end? To the end of connecting human beings together. That's what's interesting, and it needs a very delicate sort of purpose-led engagement with technology. Why is technology important? Is because I've met people who deal with local zakat at such a hyper-local level, they don't know what to do if it's not physical money to physical doors. Like, they don't have a system they can take over the country to educate and show people. And so technology is quite important, and we do invest a fair bit of time and effort into developing technological solutions. I'll give you some examples. But again, it's to the end of connecting people, not to the end of disconnecting people. So I'll give you a simple example of this Zakat Hub I'm talking about. This is driven by technology. How is it driven by technology? It's because we've developed, just like your iPad there, we've got a system which can be opened up just on the iPad. You log in. You've got the whole form of how you're going to assess somebody. Like, I've come in to be assessed by you. I've brought in my passport and my rent contract, and you can just take a picture, and then it's something that you can demonstrate that you've been through an assessment. You can note your notes of the conversation. Then that automatically will be seen by another gentleman in your mosque as well, who'll double check. Then you can confirm the payment. Like I said, you can either pay and we can reimburse, or you can authorize us to pay. And then we will also triple check and make sure that the whole process has been done well. We can only do that through technology. As we develop this further, you'll be able to see, or has this person come? You can already tell, has he come before? Am I serving the same person twice? Because you won't remember. And so as we develop this further, the local Zakat Hubs, their power is technology. We can power right now, today, and we are doing it, grassroots cash giving without cash. What does that mean? Because some of our partners didn't want to handle cash on premises. They've got volunteers. They're worried about, if there is cash, what about their safety? What about other matters?
A lot of mosques have a lot of risk that they have to
Correct. And so they didn't want to handle cash. And so what happens is they do the whole system. They authorize, we will double check that it's been done well, and then we'll send a code, and the person who was assessed just goes to the post office and gets their grant. We can power that's what I'm saying, we're harnessing all of what we've been building to the end of connecting people. What I spoke about earlier about this virtual connecting, like I said, we're still trialing. There's a number of models we've been looking at, but we already have, currently we've partnered with an app developer and we're rolling it out right now to mosque communities to see how does this work. So we're always trying to push the envelope. How can you make it work in a way for maximum advantage? Internally, we've also developed, we've been exploring machine learning and artificial intelligence techniques to support,
How are you using AI? Is AI part of the strategy going forward?
So we've been developing ways, we're obviously very careful about this, so a lot of trialing, testing, reviewing, on how I can support some of our grant assessment work. So we have grants officers who have to look through IDs, ID matching, if depending on the case, if there's a bank statement, they want to make sure are there any hidden bank accounts, are there any signs of fraud, and there's work. Work takes time, work has a cost, and so how much of this can be replicated and done much quicker through a trained machine, which a human can check, because that will be efficient on cost. You can scale it out much bigger. You can support your hubs. So can you see there's a lot you can do? Correct. And so we have started employing this in the profiles of cases that are very easy for us. There's a particular profile that we know that if you sit within this profile, your assessment is quite straightforward. And so we've already started doing that, and the advantages have been excellent. Like, it's saving a lot of time, and again, lots of review. We've tested it on past data, tested it on live data. We're reviewing it, but it's just to say that we are developing it there because it will be important. Again, done well. We're overseen. We have a lot of advisory boards. We have a tech advisory board of just experts in the technology space who are making sure that we're doing this well. We have a risk advisory board to making sure that we've thought about what errors might happen in here and how you're managing it. We have Sharia audit. And so we're doing this well. We're doing this carefully, but we are pushing the envelope because it's needed. If I talk about some other areas we've been developing, also in development is AI-supported Zakat Q&A. So we have a very good knowledge bank online. If you search on a Zakat fiqh question, chances are amongst your top hits will be an NZF link. We still have one of the leading repositories of Zakat Q&A. But how do you make it easier for people to use? It'll be easier if there's some chatbot. You can say, well, this is my actual question. It can say, well, is this your answer? So we're developing systems like that as well. So I'll say technology is important. We are always trying to develop, always trying to push the envelope. But the end is actually to build community and to build a system that we can scale, and we can make serving your community a very easy thing. Because if people have to start from scratch, what's your due diligence? How do you assess for zakat? Where do you record the data? How do you ensure that the payments have been done? It's a lot.
You're basically taking away the hard work from them.
Exactly.
You've got the blueprint for assessing zakat. Now, all of this is fantastic. It costs money. How is NZF funding all this research and all the teams that you said you've got board of technologies, you've got scholars? How much is NZF investing in all this?
It's a very, very good question. We run a very lean project. We definitely push above our weight quite significantly. By the grace of Allah, we have a number of really very dedicated, very skilled people who have really decided that they want to serve with their abilities. When I mention advisory boards, the advisors are all volunteers by definition. Board advisors, these are voluntary roles. We've got sector experts who want to give back, and that's how they give back, through these advisory positions.
What you're saying is you've got a lot of pro bono
through the advisory level, without a doubt, and then through the team. Like I said, we work very lean, but we really do our best to give focused output, and we're building on, again, year after year, we're building ourselves a platform just to push it a bit further.
How big is the team?
Yeah, so if I give you the full-time headcount, it's about 28, 29. Total headcount, let's call it about 35 odd. That's the size of our team. We work remotely. We don't have a physical office. That's also a cost saving for us. We rent an offices when we want to meet. Our main funding is primarily through the gift aid, which is a main income source for us.
So are you saying that National Zakat Foundation does not take an admin fee from the donations?
So the way that we work is as follows. If I give you the full portfolio of our spending, the bulk of it is actually from gift aid. Those who collect gift aid, they can get a further 25% of the donation from tax.
If £100, for example, and I'm a taxpayer,
Yeah.
you, National Zakat Foundation, will get 125.
Correct. And the 25 we can use to service your 100 with our costs. We also raise non-zakat funds to support our costs as well. This is an area we are in need of and seeking to develop further.
So is this where, if I was to make that, going back to that £100 example, when I make that £100 donation, do people then have an optional contribution towards the cost of running the organization? Is that
correct? Without a doubt. And so that fundraising, which we currently label as sadaqah, is very important for us as well to cover our costs.
Do a lot of people give? Could it be better?
Yeah. The final thing is about the zakat itself. So from the zakat, what we currently take, and this is what has been our practice for very many years, is we take 10% if you wish to give it. So what happens is, when a person comes to the point of paying, they're told the distribution service, which is what we used for the grants officers, and just that system that helps us get the money from you to your recipient, we take 10% for that. Not for admin costs and not for office fees and not for electricity, for this distribution service is what we say. And then if you want, you can just top it up yourself and pay your own 10% extra to cover your distribution cost. That's how we do it.
If I was conscious, because I know there are many people in our community, when they give sadaqah or zakat specifically, they don't want any admin amount to be taken out of that donation, right? And I know from a fiqh perspective, from a Quranic perspective, there is a belief that, admin can be taken. But we'll come back to that conversation. But if I was a actively conscious person when it comes to zakat, I don't want my zakat money to go towards admin. What you're saying is you give me an option,
for sure,
to contribute towards the cost. So instead of 100, you could say, Sultan, give us £110. That way your £100 is untouched.
Yeah, 100%. And whenever you want to come back, we can really unpack this whole idea of taking from the zakat and the question around that.
Yeah, I think what we'll do, we'll touch upon the whole element of accountability and admin costs in another episode.
Yeah, sure.
I think that's quite a deep one as well.
Yeah.
And I think we need to unpack a lot of myths and a lot of misconceptions around the role of charities in spending money and dealing with systems and processes. So we'll touch upon that on another. Thank you very much for knowing the vision and the work plan, if I can call it, that the National Zakat Foundation. And next episode, hopefully we'll get to cover a little bit more of the specifics of how the admin works and how the accountability framework works, inshallah. Thank you once again. Thank you very much.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.